Okay, welcome to the September 2023 meeting of the Houston County Historical Society. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you to please silence your phones. We have a sign-in sheet up here near Melissa. You would sign in. We will start off with a pledge to the flag led by Linda Smithy, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments or corrections on the meeting minutes from July 11th? Everybody get their minutes? Have any comments or questions? Is there a motion to accept the minutes as prepared?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes stand as approved. Leah, do you have a treasurer's report?
I do. In July and August, at the program last month, we had income of $1,200, just over $1,200. $1,000 of that was the CD rollover. And we had expenses of just over $1,000, which included $722 for this laptop and this projector and backpack that I carried it in. So we have a balance in the checking account of $2,200. The CD value is unchanged. We did receive, during the World War II program, we received donations of over $100. Sorry, it was $180 we received in donations, which was very generous. So in our, we have just over $300 left in our World War II program in case there are any outstanding invoices that we need to pay. And in our artifacts account, we have $58 left. I know Melissa's brought some things in the last couple of months. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay. Motion to accept. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll go then to old business. I'd like for Donald or Jackie one to give us a report on the World War II program.
Well, I think just about everybody that's here was involved in it, and we appreciate everybody's help. When I look around, I thought the program went good. Dave's video was great. Gary Baker put the whole program together where you've got all that in the slideshow. The presenters really did good. We've got several of them here tonight. Dan took the pictures for us, and I thought the program went just great and everything. Well received and everything. After we did the program the following week, we went to all the schools, and everybody was glad to see us, and I think the program to the schools went well. I think everybody was tickled with what we did. If anybody got any questions, we'll try and answer them.
Will you explain for some of, if somebody wants to watch the program, how do they go about doing this?
Okay, Melissa has put the links up on the email that she sent. If you don't have the links, you can just go to the YouTube channel, and mine is just Donald Bateman, it's a red D, and you can click on that, and we have Dave's video, which is about 23 minutes long, and we've got the slideshow with the one that has pictures about 13 minutes. Now, if you want to watch the whole program, if you'll go to Santa Blue, it's SANNA BLUE, and that's Gary Baker's Facebook page. And he's got it posted there. And like I said, Melissa's got the links on the email that she sent out this week, I believe last week too, wasn't it, Melissa?
Yeah, and I'll send it out the next couple of weeks, but I also have the videos on our Patriot computer at the archives, if someone doesn't have a computer and you want to watch it.
Right. And I think you're scheduled to do, what, Rotary
Rotary
next
next
week?
Tuesday.
Next
Now Leah's
Tuesday.
gonna go with me and we're gonna do it.
But we appreciate everybody's help.
Now, I'd like to say I expected it to be good, but not that good.
How many people do you think showed up?
I think we had right at 200. we could count probably at sign-in about 150 to 160. And then I knew there were several that didn't sign in. And then you had the band, the scouts, and the band did a great job, and the scouts did too. I mean, just everybody pitched in and helped us. And I can't say enough about the schools. The high school especially, Emily, she just went out of her way. And then Erin Elementary, Tennessee Ridge Elementary, and then the middle school. They were just all just great, I think.
And we couldn't have had it without Will Pryor and Derek Pryor.
Yes, amen.
Doing our sound system for us.
And Dave,
And
yes.
Dave, yeah.
Well, I've heard nothing but good reviews on that, actually great reviews, and I thank you all for taking care of that, Dan.
If I jump in to say, so often in Houston County, we just get by because we have so little to work with. And sometimes the product that comes out is good, but it's seldom off the charts good. This was off the charts good. The people who worked so hard on this, as far as I'm concerned, they all get awards and plaques and whatever motivates them. Because I was so proud of Houston County. I'm telling you, yeah, the fact that that thanks to Donald drafting a couple of pros to help, really helped. And Donald's kind of a pro too. And his wife's even better.
Amen.
But the fact that David put that together for us, I don't know what the historical society ought to do, but wow, that could be shown in any forum, anywhere in America, and it would show up good. It was that. And I'm pretty critical about stuff.
David is a perfectionist. So
He is.
And he showed that, and he did our 50th high school reunion, and that's where he got something to help him with this because of his expertise. Any other comments or questions about that? Melissa, do you still have any of the artifacts on display at the archives for World War II? No. Did have a thank you note.
He'll be at the fair. What do you guys?
Oh, yes. There'll be posters set up at the Houston County Fair. Set up probably
Yeah, there's
Thursday.
just one of some of this ones that were at the high school that do that.
So stop by and see that.
Not all of them.
Couple tables.
A couple of tables. Did have a thank you note from Scott Moore. Thank you all for coming and sharing about the history of World War II and its veterans with our students at Tennessee Ridge Elementary School. Scott Moore, principal there. So any other old business you'd like to discuss? New business? We put all of our efforts into the World War II and we don't have any new business and the old business is over. So the only new business I can think of is October is open for a program. We have November, December, January, February, and March covered after October. So be thinking about October if you know of anyone that has a program. Otherwise, you might be asked to participate. And Melissa will give us an update on the archives.
Well, since we have a new laptop and a new projector, I thought I would do my update this way, because you all can't, not everyone gets to come to the archives to see some things. So I've not been able to give an update since July, and since July we have had some pretty major donations, and not just World War II related. So we'll start with the first one. The Stewart Post Office. Some of you know that the Stewart Post Office, the old post office, was being stored in the Stewart School or Stewart Community Center. Philip Lovelady, who is over that building, called me because I had told him years ago, when you get ready to get rid of it, call me. He called, and we went and we dismantled it and moved it out of the building. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you everyone, but that building is in extremely bad shape. I have seen buckled floors, but these buckled floors come up almost to my knees. It's pretty bad. So we got it out. The Fair Board have been gracious enough to let us store it at the Purdue Building, their new Houston Fairgrounds building. And as of today, which I don't have a photograph, this is what it looked like. This is an old photograph. This is what it looked like when it's put together and it was in the school. I just got photographs today of it is put together and it will be ready, I think, for the fair. So if you go to the fair, you can see it put together.
It looks, I saw it today, it looks just like that.
Yeah, the gentleman who took it apart and put it together was Keith Greer, who was the county maintenance guy. And he put it back together from the photographs that we took on the day that we dismantled it. So it should look exactly like it did when it was in the school. And this photograph, you can't see it. Go back. In this photograph, the post office boxes are on this side of the wall, but those are all intact. So here's a couple more pictures of the day when we dismantled it. Go to the next one. There's the post office boxes. We put it all on that trailer and we took it to that building. Is there any more? Oh, and it came with stuff. It came with this old typewriter, this adding machine. Go ahead. It came with this big basket that belonged down there and a bunch of documents and records and all kinds of wonderful, neat stuff that we got. We also got the Stewart High School, the original Stewart High School sign. He gave that to us, took it right off the wall, from above the door. And the Stewart Depot sign. We don't have the depot part, but we have the Stewart part. This came off of the Stewart Depot. Okay? Yeah, go ahead. The next donation that we got, some of you have seen because you've been to the archives and I've been very excited to show it to you. Some of you may have remembered the Erin Theater. We have very, very little from the Erin Theater. But Melvin Davis gave us this. It is on top of our display case in the hallway. It is one of the original film projectors and 2 lights. If you come to the meeting in November, you'll be able to look at it. These were from the Erin Theater. He got them from the Christensen family, who, within that family, owned. They actually have 2 more of these in their possession. So he donated this that came out of the Erin Theater. We got a very, very large donation from Jennifer Schmidt Mangrum. She lives in the Nashville area. She called, and we were having a World War II meeting that day, so some of you that were there will remember this. And she wanted to donate a bunch of stuff that belonged to the Barnes Schmidt family in Tennessee Ridge. And she actually hired a truck. 2 men in a truck, I think it's called. I'd always heard of that, but I'd never seen them. And a couple weeks later, it all showed up. And so some of the stuff that she donated is over there in that photograph. I have a little display of a bunch of vintage kitchen stuff. This thing right here, this is a coffee grinder, but it has Rosher's store written on it from 1923. And there's wonderful different things. There's a very antique picnic basket, it's metal down there. There's a Sears and Roebuck ice shaver there. She also gave us this display case, and inside the display case, which you can't see really well here, on this shelf there are some makeup compacts, cigarette cases that belong to her mother. Her mother was Verlene Barnes Schmidt. She married Jesse James Schmidt. So go ahead. And she donated a Victrola. This is an original Victrola, belonged to her mother. And she also gave us 78 records that go with it, not the records that are 78s. So she gave us a whole box of records to go with it. Next, okay. We also recently received a donation of a Lord High Mayor jacket. And the person who donated it was Miss Sue Powell. She donated George Powell's jacket to us. This is the first Lord High Mayor jacket that we have in our collection. She wanted it to come to the Archives and Museum because she wanted it to be on display during Irish celebration. And that's where George wanted it to come. So we have that now. And lots of World War II. Even though the program's over, we are still getting people bringing, which is what we wanted. I wanted to be really aware. We have gotten more records, more photographs. And yesterday, where's Mitchell? I can't see you in the dark. Raise your hand, Mitchell. There you are. He brought us this. This picture is this big. One of those panoramic. It's from Company C, 8th Battalion, Fort McClellan, Alabama, February 1943. Mitchell, you want to tell us anything about it? Your father's in this photograph.
He down and I put it down and look at it.
Yeah. So he's donated this photograph to us, and like I said, just got it yesterday. So we're very grateful and thankful for that. We are getting more and more. I just got in the mail from Henrietta and Doug Hagler. I got their fathers, Brooke, or Betty Hagler as you knew him, his World War II stuff that they've donated. I am actually scanning a bunch of World War II records for Carl Dudley Parker. His daughter brought that in, and she didn't want to donate it, but we're scanning all of it. I've been contacted by more people saying, will you still take stuff? And yes, so we're still trying to document as much as we can. I don't think I have anything else after that. Okay. So that's the update on the archives. This is just the big physical stuff. We have gotten a lot more photographs and documents donated since July. So I couldn't bring all those, but doing some really great stuff at the archives. I can tell you on Friday we had a very special visitor. You'll probably see it in the paper hopefully this week or next week. I was in the archives and there was someone in the hallway. And normally when people are in the hallway, they're lost. So I go out and I say, can I help you? And this gentleman says, I'm looking for a museum. Is there a museum around here? And I said, right here, you found us. So he came in. This gentleman was from New Zealand. His wife is from Australia. And they are traveling from California to Elmira, New York. And he didn't explain it 100%, but evidently they ran into a woman on the interstate or somewhere that needed to come to the Houston County Health Department, and they were being good citizens and brought her to the Houston County Health Department. He saw our sign. He saw our sign at being a museum, and he is a history buff, and he said, I've got to go check that out. So he did, and so I got pictures taken with him, and I've sent it into the newspaper. So New Zealand, they're coming to see us.
Word gets around.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. Miss Annette Cole, our speaker tonight. I did have the name of your book written on my paper, but it's dark. And if you'll tell us about you and your presentation. Okay, thank you.
I don't know that I need this. I'm used to talking loud for most meetings I do, but my name is Annette Cole. My family is originally from Houston County. We have 9 generations here. And so today, the reason why I'm here is because of Elizabeth Beltzhoover Norris. She caught my attention when I was the FCS agent in Stewart County. She happens to be my 4th great-grandmother. And so I've done a little bit of research. And Alyssa, if you could get that notebook, I should have brought it up here. And I brought this for you to see. This is a notebook just on Elizabeth. So you can look at it afterwards if you want to, but it's got all kinds of documents and information in it. It was very rare for someone in the 1800s, especially a woman, to have this much documentation on her. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about her. So if you'll go ahead and turn. She was born on April the 4th, 1813 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She is of German descent, and her parents were Samuel Beltzhoover and Mary Bosman. They were wealthy tavern owners. Back in the early 1800s, the taverns is where you ate, that's where you drank, and that's where you slept if you were traveling, right? So they were very wealthy. The tavern, my understanding, is still standing in Pittsburgh. It's not in a good area of Pittsburgh. My plans are one day I want to go see it. You know, so I have not been up there to see it yet.
Sorry.
There you go. She's been married twice. The first time she was married to a William Cox in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They had 2 children. Those two children were Mary Jane Cox and Fannie L. I come out of Fannie. Mary Jane died. She was born in 1833 and she died in 1839. She died by drowning in Illinois. So that was, I'm sure that was sad. I've never been able to figure out why they were in Illinois. So that's on my agenda to figure that one out too. But my line comes directly out of Fannie. She was the only remaining one left. Her husband William died a few years later, and then she married Albert B. Norris in Dover. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's a feisty lady, and how she got here. So if you want to go ahead and... So, her mother had a half-sister that her name was Margaret. And Margaret married Samuel Stafford. They left Pittsburgh and went to Natchez, Mississippi. Down there is still to this day a Beltzhoover plantation, still operating. So they went down there, and I'm sure it was family. And then they came back this way. They settled in Dover, the Stackers did, and Elizabeth came with them because Margaret had been sick, and she came with them. Her mother, at one point, came as well. Her mother died here in Tennessee, and she's buried with the Stackers over around Cumberland Furnace in the cemetery over there. Okay? So anyway, Margaret married Samuel Stacker, and Samuel is the one that started the iron ore industry in the local area, in Stewart and Houston counties. Okay? He started that, a lot of those iron ore furnaces. Okay. So, interesting lady. I told you she was married to A.B. Norris, or Albert Norris. Evidently, it was a marriage that was an unhappy marriage. They didn't get along. They fought like cats and dogs, and they didn't live together. He came visiting her on June the 5th, 1856. And according to the court records, he was advancing up the steps of her home using foul, vulgar language. And I'm sure there was some other things going on. She shot him with a black powder pistol on the left-hand side of his head, 6 inches long and 1 inch deep. Now, this is on June the 5th of 1856. She took him into her home and she nursed him along with the help of Henrietta Willoughby. Henrietta lived on the other side of the river, and she would come periodically to help him, to nurse him back to health. Unfortunately, he died on October the 1st of 1856. And they arrested her for murder. and tried her in Dover for murder. So it took from 1856 to 1859 for them to settle that case. Mainly because Henrietta was on the other side of the river and her family was sick, and they would subpoena her to court and she wouldn't come. They ended up having to take her deposition. They sent one of Elizabeth's attorneys over to Henrietta's home and took her deposition. In that deposition, she stated that she had overheard Mr. Norris telling his wife that he hoped that the good citizens of Stewart County and Dover would not hold her responsible for his death, because it wasn't her fault. It was his. He shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. I thought, you know, that's a lot on his part, that takes a lot for him to admit that. Because evidently he liked to drink. And so I'm sure that that had something to do with the problems that they had within their marriage. But in the research, I also found that Elizabeth would sell her property to Samuel Stafford. She's a smart lady. Because in those deeds, she would put that if she paid him back what he loaned her by a certain date, she'd get her property back. Do you know what we call that in today's world? Samuel Stafford was a payday loan lender. He was a shark. You're right. That's what he was doing, and she was using her resources to pay her bills. She did it multiple times. There's quite a few deeds in here where she's done that. Where she had needed money to buy property, or to sell property, or to pay her bills. You know, she needed money, so she would get it from him. Now, during the trial, I thought this was really interesting. She was selling her property. In the deed, she put in there that she needed the funds for her defense because she had murdered her husband, A.B. Norris. What woman in their right mind would do that? I can't imagine. But in early 1800s, women didn't own property. It was very rare. They didn't have rights to even the clothes on their back or their children, even. They were chattel for their husbands. Their husbands owned it. They did not own a thing. And for her to be able to own property, you knew she had money. But she was borrowing money from Samuel Stafford to pay her bills and to buy property. She owned property around in Dover. Do you know where the Dover Cemetery is in Dover on 49? From there to Long Creek, she had about 300 acres in there. I have not gone to do the research to pin down exactly where it was in that area. But the deeds state that it was in that Long Branch area, somewhere in that area. She also owned the Dover Island. You know, that was at that point was pretty big. It's much smaller and broken up into a couple of islands now. But she sold all of that for her defense. And she got off and when she was tried for murder, she got off because of Henrietta's, her testimony. So she was not convicted of murder. It's a good thing, because she has gone on to do a lot more important things after 1856. So during the Civil War, she served 2 years as a Civil War nurse, as the head nurse of a hospital in Griffith, Georgia. I went down there and I was going to do some research in Griffith, and I talked to the county archivist there. They could not help me at that point. I need to go back. They had everything packed up and were moving. so I couldn't get what I needed. But she was, all of the, in Griffith, Georgia, all the Confederate hospitals that were there are now gone. But she was the head nurse, according to this newspaper article that I found, for 2 years down there. She was also here when Fort Donelson fell. She was nursing the sick on the battlefield. She followed the Tennessee 14. So she had walked from Dover all the way to West Virginia at one point when they were sick. But during the Battle of Fort Donelson, she was on the battlefield with her basket of supplies, and she saw the Tennessee 14 guys that she knew. They were local guys from Stewart, Houston, and Montgomery counties. They were fleeing. They had been overrun, and all of the officers had been killed. She stopped them and she says, "Why are y'all leaving? Why are y'all running?" And they told her that they had all been killed and they were fleeing. She stopped them and turned them around and went back and recaptured the location that they had just lost. That's a strong-willed woman to do that. I don't know that I could have done that. So she did that. She was also, during the fall of Fort Donelson, she was on her way to one of the Confederate areas and was shot at by a sniper. They missed her. And they hit a tree. Well, when they hit that tree, a splinter came off and went into her knee. She crawled up underneath a bush, trying to camouflage herself, and she was found by some Confederates, and they picked her up and took her home. Now, she was not a little woman. She was not. She was a big woman. She was tall, because at some point, and I'm thinking I haven't proved it yet, but I think it was at Fort Donelson, she was caught with two men under her hood skirts. She nursed both sides of the army. She was nursing the Confederates as well as the Yankees. They gave her, in my family, we've always known there was an aunt in the family that was very wealthy because she had been in the Civil War, and they gave her everything they had to get them back across the line because they didn't want to go to the Confederate or the Union confinement camps, the military prisoner of war camps. They didn't want to go there. You can imagine why. I wouldn't want to go there either, because there was lots of disease. There was no place for them to get out of the weather. They were confined, hundreds and hundreds of people in a small area. So they would give her anything. She had oil wells in Texas. She had plantations and property in South Carolina and North Carolina. She had all kinds of stuff. She eventually lost all of that. So, anyway, so she had these two men, and I don't know, I'm assuming that they were Confederates that were under her skirts, because she was arrested and convicted as a Confederate spy. I'm still looking to find out what camp she went to. According to the newspaper article that I found, it stated that she was traded along with some officers because she spent several months in this camp. I don't know where she went to. So that's one of my next things, is to get to the National Archives or find somebody that can go and look that up and find out all they can at the National Archives from her. Because the archivist in Griffith, Georgia, told me that mainly, if her name was named anywhere, it might be named in the Confederate generals, the doctor, the head doctor of the Confederate Army. He had a lot of records. He was from Texas. Her name might be mentioned in there, but you have to go through all those records to find it. And some of the records, once he died, his daughters redacted it because they thought it would make their dad look bad. So there are parts that are missing out of those records. So I'm still on the hunt trying to find out, was she really convicted as a Confederate spy? And if so, where? Where did she go to? What camp was she in? When was she released? So I'm still looking for that. Let's see. I talked about she was shot and wounded. Okay, let's go to the next. So the war's over, and she had promised the soldiers that was the Tennessee 14 that she would take care of their orphans while they were on the field dying, and she promised them that she would take care of the orphans after the war was over. She fulfilled her promise. She opened the Confederate Orphan Asylum in Clarksville. It was at the end of Old Russellville Pike down next to the river. There used to be a bridge that went from Franklin Street. Let's see. If you know where Silky's restaurant is, the bread store, behind that is another road, and I think that was Franklin Street, if I remember right. And that's where the bridge was. It crossed the river over to Old Russellville Pike. All that bottom land, they purchased 300 acres. There was a building, and this is the orphanage. So it was a big, huge building. They took care of 60 orphans all across Tennessee, all Confederate. Okay? That's a big undertaking to take care of 60 kids and raise them. They had a board of directors. Some of the wealthy women in the town were on that board. And then she traveled the United States trying to solicit funds to supply the orphanage with food and clothing and beds and all that sort of thing that they needed to raise these kids. I've tracked her to New York, to Pennsylvania. I wonder why she was there. Why do you think she'd be in New York and Pennsylvania? That's where she was from. She had family. She knew people. So she was soliciting those funds. I found her in South Carolina. She was selling property there after the war. She was in Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana, Texas. Then I found her on a shipping manifest. She went to California. Remember, there was a gold rush right after the Civil War in California. And she was out there trying to solicit money there for the orphanage. There was a man out there, a banker, that I think he fell in love with her, because this picture that's on here is an oil painting that he commissioned to have painted of her. And he suggested that she go to the gold mines, or the iron mines, and ask for iron ore. She took it back, and there was another man that would smelt that iron ore. And by the time she got through and came back to Tennessee, she had a gold bar. You know how many thousands of dollars that would have been in today's monetary value? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's how she solicited and got money for this. In grand total, from what we can tell, she raised $7,000 in about 1869, 1871, and that time. She spent a total of 2 years out there in California. She ruined her health while she was there, because she would go to these iron ore mines, and she would put the iron ore on a wagon and bring it back for him to smell. So she ruined her health while she was doing all of that and traveling. They had I'm sorry, they had 150 acres, not 300 acres, not double that. That's my mistake. In September of 1871, the state of Tennessee took the orphanage over. And because they didn't have that many orphans left, they had been adopted or family had been found and they went back. So they took it over and they closed the orphanage and put it up for auction. And someone bought it. But this is, it burned at one point, and they have built another house on the foundation of the orphanage. So the foundation is still there to this day. I've been over there to the house, and it's in a very secluded area, and you have to go down a hill and around a curve, and then you have to turn back and go back this way to get to it. Right along, you're just doubling back. It's really very difficult. It would be a 3 or 4 point turn trying to get into that driveway to get to the house. Okay, we'll go ahead and go. So after the war, September 13th of 1876, she went to Dresden and she took over the Dresden Hotel and ran it for a while. She was doing that because as she traveled and because she was wealthy, she had the knowledge to run a hotel. She knew what people wanted. So she ran the hotel for a few years. Then, October 1st of 1874, she became the Postmaster General in Cumberland City. I was surprised to find that one. Not something I was thinking about, that she would be the Postmaster General there. But she did that for a few years. She lived with her daughter, Fanny. Fanny married I can't remember his first name. His last name was Evans, and until her death. And she died in 1877, in July of 1877. She was buried in the Greenwood Cemetery in Clarksville. And she was there for 100 years in an unmarked grave. Nobody knew where she was. We finally had some family members that was a genealogist, and she got to find looking for her. She found them. She found Elizabeth, Fanny, Isaac was his name, Isaac Evans, and Fanny's grandson. They're all buried, one right after the other. There was no markers, and the family has put markers on those graves. So this is Elizabeth's marker that we put on there. But she's buried in the Greenwood Cemetery. So to me it was fascinating that a woman in the mid-1800s owned land that she knew to put in a deed, that she paid the money back, that she'd get her property back, that she was a nurse in the Civil War and ran a hospital, that I can't imagine doing all the things that she has done. But she's a fascinating lady. She caught my attention real quick. And I have gone through and pulled what I call the fluff out. Now I'm digging for those harder to find things. But she had to be strong-willed and she had to be stubborn. You have to remember, she was of German descent. I wonder if that's where I get some of mine. You know, that does run through the family. I did know Fanny's granddaughter. She lived until 1968, I think. I have a picture. I'm the youngest one. I was about 2 or 3, maybe, probably 2. I was the youngest, 5 generations, and Fanny's granddaughter was the oldest. I remember seeing her sit in my grandfather's great-grandfather's recliner. I was playing in the floor, and I was thinking, who is this old lady that's over there? I do remember thinking about it, and my daddy wanted to have this picture made, and I didn't want to get up and go, I want to play. But I had to get up and have this picture made. Well, I'm thankful that he made me get up and take that picture. Because now I have a picture of 5 generations. And her Fanny's granddaughter was the oldest one. So it's been really interesting to go through and see that direct line descendant from Elizabeth. But she was a character. And the more I find, the more fascinated I am with her. So, but that's the short, quick, and easy on Elizabeth. Anybody have any questions that you want to ask?
How many children did she have?
She had 2. One died, and then I come out of the remaining. She didn't have any children with Mr. Norris. So it was. She's just. She's really a fascinating lady. And if you want to, oh, you've already done it. Sorry, I don't know if I don't remember. Okay, go down to the next slide. Right there. This is Elizabeth. And she looks kind of stern, doesn't she? But you have to remember that back then that's how they took pictures. They didn't smile. You couldn't see personality or anything. But this is the oil painting that was commissioned. It today is hanging in a family member's home in California. They did not know who that was. And I remember this hanging in my great-grandparents' home. And after their death, that's when it went to California. Their grandchildren did not know who it was. We had to tell them who it was. So my goal is that it will eventually come back to Tennessee. It needs to go to Stewart County, to the archives there, because that's where she spent the most of her life, was there in Stewart County in Dover. But she's just a fascinating lady for me. Yeah. Way ahead of her. There are women here in today's society that couldn't do what she's done. And to do it in that time frame.
And did she take the child with her when she went to all these places?
By the time that she opened the orphanage and started traveling, Fanny was an adult.
Oh.
She was already out on her own. So, and I did, one day I went into the archives in Stewart County and I talked to Jim Long. I said, Jim, Fanny put all this stuff in these deeds. I know if she was smart enough to do that, she had to have a will. She did. And I have a copy of it. And I have copies of the court records of the trial. Jim was great because he had all of that. I just call him and say, do you have this or do you have that? And he's been great on finding things that I couldn't find or I didn't think to find. My office was in the basement of the courthouse there, and I could go upstairs and look in the deeds, and I could get a lot of the deeds that way. But Melissa helped me this week because she found one that I didn't know. I didn't know about it. So she found another one. And she had Jim help her with that. So I really appreciate all the help I've gotten. But I'm just now getting to the point where I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging and go in other places to find the information. This is what I can find locally. My goal is that once I retire, that I will write a book about her. And the profits will go to the Stewart and Montgomery County archives. It will be split between. Because she had the orphanage in Clarksville and she lived in Dover. So I want to support that. I don't want to make money off my grandmother. You know, that's not right. But I can make money to support what she was trying to do. And so I think that's what's going to happen. I can't write it at the current today because I work for UT. We can't discriminate, and in today's society, I can see where that might be frowned upon. So I'll wait until after I retire to write it. Then I don't have to worry about UT.
You said she was with the 14th Tennessee all the way to
She went to West Virginia. She walked some 75 miles. That's what they said. It's longer than, we know that.
Yeah.
They didn't at that time.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, she followed the 14th, and I had been in touch with the Tennessee 14th, the reenactors. They didn't know anything about her. So I'm fixing to, I've got to send some information to them about her and see what they, because they may have some records that I don't know about.
He would have been forgotten in the hall of history.
I don't want her to fade away. She's too important to do that. Yes.
Didn't a lot of the Confederate prisoners go to Illinois from Fort Donelson?
They did. A lot of, and I would assume that that's where she went, but I don't know that for a fact yet. All of those records are in the National Archive, and if I send a request, it's 5 years. Now, I'm sure but that was the last I heard. It's shorter now, probably. But Melissa's given me the name of a man that will go and look up those records. I just haven't done it yet. You know how you procrastinate, you get busy. Well, this is my next thing, is
She was really cared about the whole mission, to go to California.
back
To do
then,
what she did.
she went by boat. And I
That's how long
found
it
the
took her to get
manifest.
there. How long it took her to get there?
Yeah, she had to go all the way around to get there. South America.
Do you have any idea where her husband might be buried when she murdered?
I don't know where he's
She
been.
got off.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought that one.
Well, I have.
Where did it?
I don't know. But I own Long Creek property.
Yes.
And Long Creek kind of meandered around a little bit, and then Long Creek Island, out there too,
Uh-huh.
or Dover Island sometimes called.
Yeah.
That all would flood,
Yes.
so I don't think he's buried there.
No.
So I think he's buried on the high ground on the Dover side of the river.
Uh-huh.
There's a cemetery on my road, Timbertops Road in Glasgow. He's not listed in there, but I believe there's unmarked graves in there also. There is a cemetery over on the far side of Long Creek too, between Long and Wood Creek. It's supposed to have a couple infants in it, a couple, wife and mother, a couple children, I think. It's possible that he's in an unmarked grave somewhere else, but, I don't know. I've just been looking for that for a long time.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about looking for him. I was fat, I had these blinders on for her. I should branch out a little bit.
Did you did by chance bring the Beltzhoover book, did you?
I did not bring the one that has been written, no. I haven't, but I did bring this.
I've looked at that, it's fascinating, the matter of work she's done. I mean, to trace your ancestry, a lot of us have ancestors that stayed in Houston County, or stayed in Stewart County, or stayed, just kind of stayed put. But this woman went everywhere, and so it can be very difficult to trace, and you've just done a fantastic job following her.
Thank you. There's more I want to pull out about her, but
She was a lot more out there.
I'm sure there's a lot,
Yeah.
because how many women in that time frame would have all these newspaper articles? All of that's newspaper articles about her. And I know there's probably some more that I haven't found. She was well known in the area. In fact, one of the articles said that she could be compared to Florence Nightingale. That she was, so, yeah.
Do you have the article where it says she was buried without a headstone?
I don't remember, to be honest with
There's a
you.
picture of her, and it's a pretty long article about it.
Yeah, I think I do. I know there is a Confederate magazine, and it states in there that she was buried without a headstone for over
She was
100
buried
years.
without his purpose.
I don't think,
Studied it was gone.
no, I don't think that they had the money in that, because she had
She lost
lost,
it.
she had lost it all.
How did she lose it?
What was Isaac's last name?
Evans. Isaac and Fanny Evans. And then there was one son from that. Her granddaughter married, John Hill Thomas II. He was a character too. He liked to drink because he was arrested several times for tippancy. So, he liked to fight and drink.
What's your cousin's name, Denise?
Yes, I brought Denise to the archives somehow.
Yes. That she got in on the UDC on this last
On
year.
Fanny. She is the only woman in the UVC that, at that time,
Yeah.
the first woman to get in the Sons of the Confederacy.
No, the
female.
daughters,
Or Daughters of the
that
Confederacy.
was on, not Fanny, but on,
On Elizabeth.
on Elizabeth.
Yeah, she got in under Elizabeth. Based off of all of this kind of stuff. Of what we couldn't prove. So, I'm going through the newspaper articles and trying to prove more of what it says. You know, and one of those articles stated that she was convicted as a Confederate spy, so I'm trying to prove that one.
You know she went to prisoner of war camp?
It says she was in a camp with other soldiers and that she was traded with officers and released.
The largest POW camp, the Yankees said, was called Camp W, something like that.
It might. And I found that one, but a lot of them went to one in Illinois. I can't remember the name.
Camp Douglas is now, but there's not in Alton, Illinois too.
Yeah, so,
It was
but,
kind of like our Anderson, you know?
yes, that's
Okay.
right. So I assume that that's where she went, that's my assumption. But I don't know, until I find the records in the National Archives. One of these days I'll send it off and find it. Yeah, just keep digging. But yeah, she is a fascinating lady, that she was that strong-willed. And I can see her in a lot of us. I can see her in my sister, I can see her in me. Because we are stubborn just like I'm sure she was. But yeah, she married through the Thomases, into the Thomases, Fanny did. Fanny's grandparents. Fanny married Evans, and her granddaughter married into the Thomas family. And that comes down through my grandmother. My grandmother was Bessie Thomas Lyon. So she married Red Lyon, if you know Red. He is my grandfather.
His brother. Garland, Red.
Yeah. Nobody around here knows him as Garland.
Yeah, nobody.
No,
Nobody.
he was red. He was red.
Halfway name.
Yeah. All that red hair and that red complexion. So, but yeah. So you're welcome to look at this if you want to. I don't mind. Whatever you need. If you have questions, don't hesitate to call me. I'm in the basement of the courthouse. So you can come see me. I'll be happy to talk to you about her.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I got something.
You got something?
Couple things.
Okay, go ahead.
I got a display here, a flyer that you get on John Walsh's Civil War Relic Military Collection. It's the first weekend in October. The Saturday and Sunday, the 7th and 8th of October in the Stewart County Visitor Center. There's a $5 charge to it, but it's well worth it. That big room will be full. And then the Stewart County Historical Society meets on the 26th of September, and it's going to be by Iron Furnaces and the Carlisle area. We've got 3 speakers that'll come talk a little bit about it, and probably just graduate from there for other programs too. But it's it'll be Matt McLean, Larry Lafferty, and possibly Rick Joyner might be coming too. He hasn't totally confirmed yet, but that's what the plan is for that. So.
Any other announcements or motion to adjourn now?
Make a motion.